Wonderful sauce. Thanks a lot for clicking this video. If you watched the previous episode, there was some disturbing goo 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 noise in the background. Yeah, I think you can also hear it right now. That is an effect of machineries working out there which we have no control over. But kindly, bear with us as we be reacting together to these videos. And hit the like button please. Remember, the mission here is to spread love, honesty, peace and forgiveness. And for that, we also acknowledge God Almighty. Let's read from His word today. Psalm 30. I will exalt you, O Lord, for you lifted me out of the depths and did not let my enemies gloat over me. O Lord my God, I called to you for help and you healed me. O Lord, you brought me up from the grave, you spared me from going down into the pit. Sing to the Lord, you saints of His. Praise His holy name. Wow. Let's pray. Thank you, Father, for this person that has clicked this video. Thank you for their life, Father. Thank you for your love and unending mercies, Father. Forgive us all our sins, dear Lord, all which we may have committed. Be with us, Father, as we react to these videos. In Jesus' mighty name we pray and believe. Amen. Let's dive in.
Okay, if you've ever had a wart, I'm going to tell you the old wives' tale remedy, and I'm also going to tell you the weird voodoo sorcery that worked for my daughter 28 years ago. Here's the wives' tale. You take a potato, cut it in half, and you rub the potato juice on your wart, and then you take the potato out and you bury it. And as the potato biodegrades, decomposes, so will your wart, and your wart will be gone. Poof. I've never tried that. I've never known anyone that's tried that. However, Reddit supports this old wives' tale. But here is the voodoo craziness that worked for me 28, 29 years ago. So my daughter was going into kindergarten. It was the summer. She was going into kindergarten in the fall, and she had warts all over her hands, all over the backs of her hands, like on her knuckles, and they were getting worse and worse. She had so many of them. Some of them were all clustered together, and she had this big area that was about the size of a dime. And she was playing on a little t-ball team, and in her t-ball pictures, she was holding the bat like this, and you could see all of those warts sticking up, and she was so self-conscious about it. She hated it. So she was spending basically that summer with putting band-aids all over the backs of her hands. I was using Compound W, getting nowhere. One day, I was just ready to take her and start getting them burned off or froze off. And then I was at my chiropractor's, and he does some functional medicine, some different voodoo stuff, and he saw them, and he said, he asked her, he was like, Tristan, can I buy these warts from you? And she was like, excuse me, what? Because she was 5, going into kindergarten in like a month. So he said, no, I'm serious. I'll buy those warts from you. And he gave her $1, and he said, here's the down payment. So he said, no, seriously, is there something that you would like? I'm going to buy these warts from you for the cost of whatever it is you want. Here's $1 for your down payment. What would you like after the warts are gone, after you've given them to me? She said, I want a pair of Barbie roller skates. So we go home, blah, blah, blah. And I noticed it was in the summertime. And after she got out of the bathtub a few days later, I noticed there was like white rings around these warts on her hands. And I was like, what the hell is that? Pretty soon I started noticing day after day the white rings were getting bigger and the warts seemed to be looking drier and smaller. And I realized that it's summertime and her hands were tanned. We had a pool in the backyard at the time. So the white rings were the freaking warts shrinking up, and the areas that the warts had covered had no tan. So those white rings were just her fresh little skin with no tan. By the time she started her first day of kindergarten, every single wart on the backs of her hands were gone, but she had these white spots that weren't tanned. I have no explanation for why or how this happened, but I took her to, I think it was Kmart back then, and bought her the pair of Barbie roller skates. So 28, 29 years ago, she sold her warts to the chiropractor in exchange for $1 plus a pair of Barbie skates. What kind of voodoo is that? So everything of value I've ever learned has been from an old lady or my chiropractor.
Where does one acquire an ode? Oh, this one has an ode as a pet. Oh, it's good vibes, man. But where did they get it? This is crazy.
Hey friends, so let's discuss real quick what an alien is, how they're formed naturally in this universe, and where humans fit into this puzzle. This is going to be super simple, it's going to make a lot of sense, and I think you're going to like this, okay? I just got back from Contact in the Desert. It's a great UFO convention in Palm Springs, and there's a lot of really smart people there, and a lot of them were discussing and sometimes arguing like different types of aliens and the craft and the propulsion systems and this kind of stuff. What I didn't really hear is anyone zooming all the way out and breaking down what an alien is, where all this came from to begin with. So I'm going to do that for you today, okay? So from what I've learned through all my research, especially with Walter Russell's teachings, is life is created from the inside out. Nothing is placed here. These trees that you see grow from the ground up. Everything on Earth was birthed from Mother Earth, from Gaia, okay? So humans are the same, except we weren't in this form at that time. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, we were more like Denisovans, Cro-Magnon man, Neanderthal, right? We were upright, humanoid, but more primitive. Now that seems to be very natural. We evolved that way from Earth itself. And then at a certain point, we turned into like superhumans, okay? How did that happen? Well, think about that process I just described, but on a different planet that was maybe billions of years ahead of us. Think about how far we've come in the last 100,000 years. Now think about 100 million years, okay? So there's trillions of planets in this universe. So of course there's going to be intelligent life on those planets. All an alien is an intelligent life form not from Earth. There's going to be so many of them all over the universe. Now I just got back from the desert out there in Joshua Tree, and plant life out there looks so foreign. It looks alien. It looks like you're on a different planet. And that's just on the other side of the country. Now imagine a different planet, different, composition of air and atmosphere, different gravity, different, sun, all that kind of stuff. Life is going to be very different. But one thing all life has, especially intelligent life, is it's made by the ultimate creator. And it's made to be a creator. What do? We create. And we also hybridize and mix and match. Think about everyone's dogs and cats and everything. I mean, there's no pure breeds hardly anymore. Everyone wants to mix and match to make cuter animals and smarter animals and this kind of stuff. So life, even intelligent life, is going to be the same way. We are naturally creators. We create and we're trying to constantly improve. The motto of the universe is evolve or die. So everything is evolving, and when you get to a certain advancement, your job is to propagate life and to mix and match and try to create better, newer, and improved models. Now, on other planets that had hundreds of millions of years or maybe billions of years of a head start on us, their life is going to be very, very advanced. And at a certain point, they're going to leave their planet and they're going to roam around looking for opportunities to go to new worlds and create new life. That seems to be a very natural directive that we have. Now, none of our archaeologists, none of our scientists can figure out why around 6,000 years ago, we went from basically cave dwellers, hunters and gatherers, to very advanced humans in the Sumerian times. Well, if you read the Sumerian text, they tell you that it didn't happen naturally. The Anunnaki came and hybridized humans and turned us into these superhumans that we are. Now, this would be very consistent with the scenario I just described, that there's going to be advanced humanoids out there in the universe that are looking for species that are at the tipping point, like we would have been when we were kind of Neanderthal type, and they can come down and they can hybridize and turn them into a newer model of themselves, new and improved, okay? Now that seems to be exactly what happened to us around 6,000 years ago in Sumer. This seems to be very consistent with this theory that I'm putting out here about how life is formed naturally on planets, and given enough time, these big time scales, we're talking about billions of years, then life will get so advanced, at a certain point it leaves the planet, it has a directive to go out, propagate life, and to, engineer new and improved models. That's what a human is, okay? Now, when you have the newest, latest and greatest, you are going to naturally attract a lot of attention. You're going to attract people that are in awe, people that are, like interested, and also haters. You're going to attract the ones that maybe don't have our qualities and traits. I mean, if you think about what a human is, we have opposable thumbs. We have little bitty fingers where we can make tools and weapons and stuff. We're very smart. We're creative and artistic. We're funny. We, have a spiritual connection. We have the ability to manifest and heal with our minds. We have so many things going for us that a lot of these other species don't seem to have. I haven't seen a lot of funny aliens, okay? So there's going to be other species out there, other humanoids that don't like us. And then there's going to be some that do. And then there's also going to be the progenitors that actually did hybridize us that are going to be sort of our guardians and looking out for us. And now what do we see? When we look out into the wild world of ufology, we see that. We see the guardians. We see the ones helping us, the Galactic Federation, the Pleiadians, those kinds. Then we also see the Greys that are abducting people, taking semen, taking skin samples, taking, blood samples, sometimes mutilating, sometimes doing weird things like that. And then we see, a little bit of the in-between. You see the ones that are just monitoring, kind of interested, kind of like when we'd go to a zoo and we're like, ooh, look at the giraffe. That's crazy, right? So we see a little bit of everything. And that's exactly what we'd see in this scenario, where life forms naturally, birthed from the planets all over the universe. And at a certain point, they get super advanced, they leave their planet, they go out, they propagate, they hybridize life to try to make the newest and improved models. And here we are. Humans are the new and improved humanoid model. And there's a lot of beings that seem to be on our side, want us to succeed. They're helping us, nudging us along, trying to develop us into our potential. And then you see beings that are manipulating us, holding us back, doing all sorts of evil things to us. That's exactly what you see in the scenario, because we're just one of probably trillions of different kinds of intelligent life in this universe. And we are now attracting a lot of attention. I don't think we were at the beginning, but then we started playing with atomic weapons and that kind of stuff. And I think now we've attracted a lot of attention. With that attention, you get good and bad. So I think right now we are kind of coming on to the galactic stage, and we need to get our shit together, because I don't think anyone can save us or protect us. I think we're going to have to save and protect ourselves, because this is a free will world. And I think that there is a directive for more advanced species not to impede with the developing species' free will. So we need to realize all of this stuff that I'm telling you and, mature and grow up, okay? And show that we do belong in this cosmic family. Because there are going to be some types that don't want us to succeed, the haters out there, okay? And they seem to be kind of nasty. But anyways, that's kind of my breakdown of what an alien is. Simply just an intelligent life form not from Earth. How they're created. They're created from the inside out. The actual planets birthed the life on the planets, including, the humanoid life form. Seems to be a very popular form for intelligent life. And that, because we're talking timescales of billions of years, maybe longer, and because there's trillions of planets, you're going to have such a variety of life. And, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a variety of alien life. We're seeing them being more interested in us now as we're hitting this tipping point. And we're kind of, making our, extending our influence outside of our own planet into the actual space. You're starting to see a lot more interest. And, we have some protectors and we have some haters. And that's exactly what you would expect to see with this theory. So I think life is very natural in this universe. I think aliens are a very natural product in this universe. And I think that our prime directive is that we are creators made by the creator. And our job is to go out and create. So the same way we mix and match dogs and cats to make, cute, smart dogs and cats and that kind of stuff, I think that humanoids roam around the universe doing the same thing. I think that that's part of life, to propagate life and to constantly be evolving and trying to make, better models and better generations, that build upon the last ones. And I think we might be one of the latest and greatest, and we need to start acting like it because people are watching. Anyways, that's my take. Let me know, what do you think? And have a beautiful day. Peace.
I just came across a passage on witchcraft from 1486 that was written by Spanish colonizers. I'm going to read it to you guys. Since women are feebler in both mind and body, it is not surprising that they should come under the spell of witchcraft. For as regards to intellect or the understanding of spiritual things, they seem to be of a different nature from men. but that natural reason is that she is more carnal than a man, as is clear from her many carnal abomination. And it should be noted that there was a defect in the formation of the first woman, since she was formed from a bent rib, that is, a rib of the breast which is bent, as it were, in a contrary direction to a man. And since through this defect she is an imperfect animal, she always deceives. And all this comes from the etymology of the word. For femina comes from fe and minus, since she is weaker to hold and preserve the faith. I'm Mumi Aramiji, and I thought that was complete bullshit. If you thought that was complete bullshit and you like to read a witchy, anti-colonial, and feminist dystopian fantasy centered on feminist spirituality, then my debut novel, The Waning, might be for you.
Please remember the caveat of manifestation that we have shared with all of you. Manifestation of things into your reality is not the manifestation of something from somewhere else coming into your reality. Manifestation is the result of simply changing your frequency to the degree where you can simply start to perceive what has already been here but was heretofore invisible to you. Because everything is here and now. Every experience you could ever have, every thought you could ever have, every object you could ever experience in your reality is all right here, right now with you. All in your energy, all in the codex of your theme of exploration in this life. It's all there holographically. But you only see what you are on the same vibratory level of. So manifestation is simply changing your vibration to make visible what is already here, but was heretofore invisible. Does that make sense? So don't think of it, don't define manifestation as having to attract something from somewhere else, so far away you don't know where it's coming from. It's all right here. You have it all. You have it all, you just don't know it yet. That's all. That's the difference.
So you see what happens when you are in that state of being, of feeling that you lack self-worth. You deprive others of what you have to give. You're not giving the gifts that you were meant to give in your world, that others are waiting to receive from you.
How can someone value themselves when they've been devalued their entire lives until it's really deeply believed?
The way the question is being asked is perpetuating the sense and experience of devaluation. Because the question was asked, how can someone value themselves when they have been devalued as if they've been devalued by someone else? When in fact the person has devalued themselves their whole lives. So if they recognize that all they did was buy into someone else's idea about the lack of value, but the only way they would experience the devaluation was to do it to themselves, to create that energy within themselves, then they have the answer and the exit door to their experience. Because if they realize, truly realize, that they have been simply agreeing to devalue themselves, then they are empowered to do the opposite just as easily. But it takes the true recognition, an absolutely clear recognition that no one else's attempt to devalue them has any effect at all, unless you believe that it does. And if you believe that it does, then you are devaluing yourself. So all you need to do to value yourself is value yourself in exactly the same way that you've been devaluing yourself your whole life. Because you've been doing it. So do something else. It's that recognition that is the key to freedom.
10 actors who have played Jesus Christ in movies. Number 1. Robert Powell. Played Jesus in the TV miniseries Jesus of Nazareth 1977. Number 2. Jim Caviezel played Jesus in The Passion of the Christ 2004. Number 3. Diogo Morgado played Jesus in Son of God 2014. Number 4. Ted Neely played Jesus in Jesus Christ Superstar 1973. Number 5. Max von Sydow played Jesus in The Greatest Story Ever Told 1965. Number 6. Brian Deacon. Jesus 1979. Number 7. Jeremy Sisto. Jesus 1999. Number 8. Eoin Macken. Killing Jesus 2015. Number 9. Michael York. Jesus of Nazareth 1977. Number 10. Donald Sutherland. The Last Temptation of Christ 1988.
No manches, ve.
No mames, ve. ¿Ve eso? Mames, eso está bien cabrón.
No manches, pa. No. Mira. Ay, Dios mío. Dios mío.
No te pases de lanza.
Mira. Oh, no.
You keep on screaming, you're gonna be next.
Ay, Dios mío, ve. No manches, ve. Ay, Dios mío de mi vida. No te pases de lanza, ve.
La bestia. ¿Qué es esa madre? Mira. ¿Cómo le está haciendo Naomi?
No
Hay
te
que pasarle
pases,
por
ve.
encima. Le pasaría por encima, pero.
No, pa.
Welcome back to the Lugao series, boys. Most of the time, it's jokes, it's fun. But to my Mexican people, what do you guys call Lugaos where y'all at? I know it's Mexico, or that he's Mexican, because he said no mames about 30 million times. You know, when Mexicans say no mames, they're not playing no games. Man's rolling on the ground. I don't know what this Lugao was doing, probably taking his soul. Lugao probably, yo mangel. And then, to make matters worse, you there watching somebody get ate by a Lugao, and Dom just screaming next to you. Lady just screaming next to you. Now the Lugao know that you're watching. Now you next. In these situations, you shouldn't make a noise. That's just me. If you're not gonna leave, don't make a noise. If you're gonna sit there and watch the Lugao take somebody, stay quiet or just leave. There's no way you can help him. There's no way you helping that man. Hopefully this reaches Mexican TikTok so y'all can tell me what's going on.
Oh, their logo makes sense now. Oh, CDC, Center for Disease Control.
¿Ya vieron lo que pasó? ¡El cielo se cae, hijo chico little!
The video of the president wandering, and it's not true, right? The president wasn't wandering. He was talking to a parachuter that was right in front of him, and what you saw is the Republican Party really manipulating what was being said and what was being seen by the American people. It's also very insulting to the the viewers who are watching it. And so we believe we have to call that out. We've been calling it cheap fakes. That is something that came directly from the media outlets and calling it that, the fact checkers and calling it that. And so we're certainly going to be really clear about that as well.
Go back in. And then I go like this, and then he comes back.
Right here.
Oh my god. Looks like some mountain is throwing up hot stones on fire. Is this a mountain or a crater? This is crazy. Oh my god. Oh. Scientists still haven't found the idea behind why this bed doesn't get brain damage. You see? Oh my god. It digs through Ooh, it digs through
When I
the
was a
tree. You
kid,
see, it's
I
big.
said, if you dug a hole from the United States, where would you come out on the other side? And everyone says, dig a hole all the way to China.
Right. That's always the case.
However, China is not where you will land if you dig a hole through the center of the earth. Because if you dig a hole through the center and you start in the northern hemisphere, you have to end up in the
southern hemisphere.
If you start in the western hemisphere, you got to end up in the
eastern hemisphere.
That's how the geometry works.
Exactly, because it's a ball.
It's a ball.
Right.
All right. So when I did the measurements on that, if you dug that hole from the United States, you would end up in the Indian Ocean.
You just flood the United States.
Yeah,
that's
water will
really
come
what you
through.
did. You pop through, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, Lord, what have I done?
There are entire facilities here on Earth that have nothing but extraterrestrials in them. There's apparently a black obsidian pyramid in Alaska. Linda Moulton Howe has reported on it. And I was told that that is a base for grays. So the whole entire pyramid is filled with gray ETs. That's just one example. We are not alone here on Earth. That's one of the reasons why the ETs will not allow us to have any type of nuclear war, because there's plenty of other races here as well. And we get into the honeycomb Earth, the hollow Earth idea. It's not actually hollow in the center, but if you go a mile or two below the surface, you get these huge underground caves that can be 20 to 40 miles wide, that have, mile high, several miles high ceilings. And if you go in there and you don't terraform it, it has a natural luminosity. There's this bioluminescent bacteria that grows on the ceiling. And then on the ground, you have these white creatures that look similar to the stuff that you see at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, where there's no light. You have little white shrimp, little white crabs, little white clams, tube worms, seaweed, all this kind of stuff. So what they end up doing, these extraterrestrial civilizations, is they can move into these areas, they can terraform them, and they turn them into something that has the semblance of being on the surface. They create an artificial sky that gives you artificial lighting, but it looks very real. They have trees, they have grass, they have meadows, they have mountains, they have buildings, they have roads. They don't use gas-powered vehicles, they use electric vehicles. And so there's no pollution down there, but people live, and you can pretty much feel like you're on the surface when you're down there. Apparently, cloning is used a great deal. There are certain people who are cloned over and over again. So you might see the same face many times, and this is how they've been able to get millions of people as staff. Another thing Uncle Jack actually told me is that when MH370 was abducted, they actually landed that plane on Diego Garcia, which is a base in the middle of the Indian Ocean, and that the people who were on the ship were brought into an underground facility, and they never came back. So there are various cases. David Paulides has a movie called, I think it's Fahrenheit 411, or maybe that's the Michael Moore thing. But anyway, it's something similar to that. But anyway, David Paulides, look up his work. He's got multiple stories about people being abducted in national forests. That's where it's most apt to happen. Don't go camping in national forests, especially if you have colorful stuff. There's many, many cases of clothing being folded up, neatly folded up, and people are missing. There's stories in actual upstate New York of what sounds like a big metallic door closing, and people just disappeared when they were right there. So yeah, people do get abducted. They do get brought underground, and they might not be dead. In fact, they become workers, and you just never get to go to the surface again. So you're dealing with extraterrestrials, and again, the fourth density types, they evolved out of third density organisms. They look human most of the time. Some of them might have different colored skin. We've heard of blue, green, orange, pink, yellow, gray, silver, black, jet black, with really dark bloodshot eyes. There's one type that looks like that. Then we have lots of different types of reptilians. The three main types I've heard of that I can confirm is there's a greenish one that might have some brown scales. There's a grayish colored one, and then there's a yellow one. So you got green, gray, and yellow are the three major types of reptilians that are most commonly seen. There's another group that's called colloquially Oompa Loompas that people like Pete Peterson dealt with, and they're little short round people, believe it or not, similar to our notions of elves. There's other people that are very short. They're only like 7 inches tall. And Pete described having a meeting with one of those at Area 51. It seems that all of our legends about leprechauns, gnomes, fairies, dwarves, elves, all this kind of stuff is actually really true. Somebody just wrote about transparent aluminum with the sky projected on it. M. Martin, yeah, that's part of what happens. I don't know if they're using transparent aluminum or not, but hopefully in the future we'll find ways to make that material because it is an amazing substance. We will make it in smaller quantities. Like, for example, the cockpit of this plane right here, the SM-39, this is going to be made with a transparent metal. I think it's transparent titanium because when you go to Mach 4, that's the fastest speed. The engines go all the way down on the sides here. That's why they need to be so long. When you have that kind of a speed, you're going to get this heat factor that will melt through glass. So you need something like transparent titanium. You need these breakthroughs in material science just to be able to have it function without falling apart. So this is a very fascinating thing. And again, according to Uncle Jack, the Roths, and you know what the rest of it is, it has child on the end. They are very involved in this. And he said that they answer to the Draco reptilians, but the Draco treat them like crap. He said, I'll give you an example of something he actually said. He's like, mate, they actually get together, these Draco reptilians, mate, and they talk like, they're very, very acerbic, mate. They don't talk in a nice, polite way to the people here, to the Roths. They talk to them like the children, and they're very abusive, mate. They're very, very competitive, and they sound like a bunch of grandmothers carping about who they hate and gossiping over bingo, right? And they even have the bingo wings. Well, no, reptilians don't have bingo wings. They're very strong. But this is real. This is stuff that, again, I got Pete and Uncle Jack talking in person. I got Henry Deacon and Uncle Jack talking in person. They were at my house. They went out in the backyard. We're going to learn a lot of things. This has all been kept very secret from us. I know it feels intolerable. But this is why I put all my money into Stavati Aerospace. I believe that this is true. I was willing to bet all of my wealth on it. Everything I could earn, I put into, why would I actually buy this facility in Niagara Falls, 180,000 square foot military facility with a massive hangar, 70-foot tall ceiling? Why would I do all this if I didn't think it was true? Obviously, I believe it. That's why I put my money where my mouth is. And there's really nobody else who's out there as a commentator talking about this, supporting the alliance, getting lots of followers, making money, who's actually taken their money and invested it directly into something like this. As far as I know, I'm the only one where I've actually made these tangible steps. We have a real military facility. We've been keeping it alive. Now we're finally going to get funded after all this time. So I understand how frustrating it is to think that there's all this stuff that you don't know, that there's all these ETs here. And I still have only been talking about fourth density ETs. According to the law of one, there's also fifth density. And at that level, they can project into a human body, and then they can dematerialize it again. And at that level, they don't look anything different than you and me. So that's what's ironic, is that in the fourth density category, they're going to look very different. They might have larger heads and larger eyes. But in the fifth density category, they're actually going to project into a form that's comfortable for us. They're going to look like something that we're familiar with. So this is really, really fascinating because all of the events that we're seeing in the world are being, there's a hidden theme behind what's going on. We're looking at what obviously seems to be some type of strange shadow war. It's an information war, as Alex has said, hence his title of this company, InfoWars. And this is not what you think. The DS is very, very adamantly fighting to prevent you from learning about extraterrestrials. That's the last thing they want you to know about. They want you to be afraid. They want you to see them as gods, to see them as authority figures. The last thing they want is for you to understand there's a higher power that answers Christianity, answers Islam, answers Buddhism, answers Hinduism. It pays off all of these ancient teachings that we've inherited that often become religions. And we find out that these are not mythological texts. These are actual, documented, factual, historical accounts. The Bible has ET contact. The Quran has ET contact. Buddhist scriptures have multiple examples of ET contact. So does the Hebrew scriptures. I mean, it's everywhere. So we're going to have a big awakening. And as I've said before, I have been used by these higher beings telepathically to convey a message, which is the Earth changes that we were afraid were going to happen, pole shift, solar flash, tsunami, all that stuff, that's not going to be happening. We're actually going to be spared these disasters because we've learned the lessons that Jesus meant to teach us, to be loving towards other people. Enough of us have learned these lessons of love. Joy Berman just donated. Thank you very much. We've learned these lessons of love so that we don't have to go through this catastrophe. We've authorized a positive timeline. And so it's very important to understand that the most jealously guarded secrets by the DS are the forbidden technologies.